Yesterday we mentioned the water cycle, but today we're going to discuss it in detail. Water has been around for billions of years. When the first fish crawled out of the ocean onto the land, the same water you brush your teeth with this morning was part of that ocean. When the brontosaurus walked through lakes feeding on plants, the water you get from the drinking fountain here at school was part of those lakes. There is approximately the same amount of water on Earth today as there was when the Earth was formed. Water is continually recycled in the Earth's water cycle. Today we're going to talk about the water from billions of years ago and how it has been recycled by the Earth and is being used by each one of us today. The process of the Earth recycling water is called the water cycle. As water goes through this process, it changes states, just like we've been discussing. And it changes states similar to how we see season and weather, as we talked about in our previous PowerPoint. Just as a refresher, it's important for us to remember what the different states of water are. Do you remember from previous discussions? Right, water can come in the form of a solid, ice or snow, a liquid water that we drink, or a gas, that's water that's evaporated, and it could be in the form of a gas like a cloud. And we see all of those forms on the screen right now. The water cycle is made up of 5 processes. These processes are transpiration, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and accumulation. We're going to investigate how each of these processes work to keep water from billions of years ago moving around the Earth today. This is a picture of the water cycle. The water cycle is the continuous recycling of water on Earth from up to the sky and down to land, and is transported back to the oceans and the sky again. Water's constantly moving due to the energy of the sun, forming surface water into water vapor. The water vapor eventually forms clouds, and the clouds condense back into water droplets. When the droplets become so dense in the clouds, the force of gravity pulls them back down to the earth, where the cycle continues all over again. Now, I could take time and go through each of these phases in detail now, but I think instead of doing that, I'll go through each one of them separately, and then at the end, we'll bring this picture back up and we'll just review each of these phases. So we're going to start with transpiration. What is transpiration? Well, plants need water to survive, and they obtain it from the soil. But plants can also sweat water out through their leaves during dry spells or really sunny days, and this is called transpiration. So when plants transpire the water in a liquid form, it changes into water vapors in the gaseous state, and that is going up into the atmosphere. So the evaporation of water from plants is transpiration. Transpiration also cools plants and enables the flow of mineral nutrients from the roots. The amount of water lost by a plant depends on its size, along with the surrounding light intensity, temperature, humidity, speed, and soil and water supply. So do they really sweat? Well, they're releasing water to supply photosynthesis and bring minerals up from the roots. So it's part of the way that they continue to give life and continue their own life cycle. Let's talk about evaporation. Evaporation is a critical component of the water cycle, and it's responsible for the formation of clouds and rain. Solar energy drives evaporation of water from oceans, lakes, moisture in the soil, and other sources of water. Um, and really, we talked about how the evaporation of the water in the oceans is attributed to 85% of the evaporation that's occurring in the cloud coverage that we end up seeing. The oceans just cover so much of the earth that's why they contribute so much. And we discussed that in our previous PowerPoint. How does evaporation relate to weather? Thinking back to our presentation yesterday. Well, it's responsible for clouds especially for rain. Next, we're going to talk about condensation. The water seen on the outside of a cold glass on a hot day is known as condensation. Condensation is the changing of water from a gaseous state back to a liquid state in the form of clouds. How is condensation related to weather? Well, condensation forms clouds which can produce rain, hail, or snow. The next phase, precipitation. It's a major component of weather and of the water cycle. Precipitation is responsible for depositing most of the fresh water on the planet. And again, it comes in various forms, rain, hail, or snow among them. And then we have accumulation. When the precipitation collects into rivers, lakes, and oceans, this is known as accumulation. Once you have all that water then collected, it can start that process of evaporation and then precipitation again. And of course, your plants have absorbed the water from the soil and they can engage in transpiration. Accumulation occurring here of any water that um, come down from the sky through precipitation. Then we have the solar energy heating that water and it evaporating in water vapors and then condensing into clouds. Once they're so heavy, the gravity pulls them down into the form of precipitation. And in between it, we have transpiration, which is plants sweating or evaporating water into the atmosphere. And folks, that concludes our discussion of the water